Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. We're broadcasting live out of Oakville, Ontario, and we hope that everyone's having a great day so far. Today we're going to talk about schematic automation techniques with SolidWorks Electrical. So just before we get into the things, I'd like to give a quick overview. Delvin Technologies is a 3D solution provider, and we are a Canadian reseller. So we support everyone from the East to West Coast. Currently we have about 90 people and we're still growing. Hundreds of certifications among all our technical experts over here, and we provide complete integrated solutions. We've been doing this and we've been in business since 1997. What does this mean for you? Well, you get coast-to-coast support. It's about 13 hours of support. When getting into SolidWorks Electrical or any CAD package, one of the top few things people look at is what are general expectations. So today, to quickly go over some of the general expectations I'm hoping to address is the ease of use, transition, established standard practices, some quality reports and bill of materials, and a level of collaboration to the extent the application can push you to. Now, Delvin itself provides solutions. We provide solutions for every stage of your product lifecycle. So we like to start off on this little wheel over here that shows, hey, people are everything. We kind of get you into developing your people, the ideas and concepts, push you through amazing technology, and as the product lifecycle moves on, we help you with the process and setting those down so that you have some standard established practices, and eventually you can push into manufacturing. Since, like I said, we do everything from 2D, 3D to 3D printing itself, so it's not just a CAD environment, we do the entire 3D solution. Now, one of the things we've noticed through the progress of technology with most of our, at least with SolidWorks Electrical, is levels of design experience. So people have multiple levels of design experience and they have certain expectations from the software. So today, I'm going to walk you through the different levels of design experience and what it means for you as a user to push the software to that next level to get you those kind of designs that you're looking for. So I have in front of me a standard SolidWorks application, SolidWorks Electrical application, and it's a standalone application. As you can see, the interface, it's neatly laid out. You've got your left-hand side with the document in the project. Excuse me. You've got your properties over on the right side. So everything to do with your project is neatly laid out. If you're looking to add any technical data sheets or any of that information into your project, whether it's technical data sheets, Excel, or just Word documents or DWGs, the application allows you to add those simply on and tack them onto your project. Now, I've categorized this and sort of neatly laid out this project. So I'm going to start off and simply give you an idea of what we're working with. So this is our packaging line assembly, and in the packaging line assembly, I've neatly broken down our design logically so that you have multiple control panels in the same project, and they're separated by the locations. Now, locations is a very important thing coming into SolidWorks environment or SolidWorks Electrical environment, only because what you do in 2D is what you will translate into 3D. Now, giving a graphical representation of all of that is great, but what does it mean for you as an electrical designer? Now, as an electrical designer, I'm used to doing a couple of things myself. So one of the things I like to see are single line representations. Now, this is SolidWorks Electrical's representation of single lines. It is very pictorial. It's a very high level representation of how the system is going to look, so it makes my life a little bit easier. It doesn't just resonate with people on the electrical side of things. It resonates with people on the mechanical side of things. It's just a graphical environment to help you make your design look more appealing. So this customer of ours requires us to add an additional motor to an existing system. I'm simply going to go in and add a motor. So as you can see, the software will remember the last object you used. If I wanted to pick another object, I simply have to go in here and pick out of the classes. As you can see, there's a lot of classes to accommodate just about everything. So we're going to just add that motor into our single line or higher level representation of the system. On doing so, the application by default throws up something called as our symbol properties. Now, the symbol properties is really good for you because at this level you can add some more information that is more relevant to you and your design. So I know that my application needs to go into, I know I'm looking to sort of add more information to this particular project. So what I would do is, let me just close this project because I have two projects lined up. And when I get into my project, I can simply add some more motor information, come back in here, and we should see some of the information ready for us to line up. So putting in our packaging line assembly, just hit select, we'll leave that over there. Our location information sort of shows you what and where you want to place any of these objects. So we're going to put this down. And once we've got our location set up, we can also go and add in some manufacturing information. So adding the manufacturing information is really simple. You have your classification again over here, so all your objects are neatly classified in these trays or holders to keep your information organized. We have filters to help you make your searches a lot easier, and I'm simply going to go and select the Leroy saw or motor and add this to my project. So I've added my motor. This should be motor M5 in my project right there. I'm going to now add a hollow representation of what my cable is going to look like. So I'm connecting from the terminals and adding my motor. So, like I said, there's going to be different levels of experience or design experience as I go into this. The first one was me just dropping in our single line representation. I dropped in a symbol, I dropped in a cable, I gave the symbol some information. Let's step up, and we're going to now get into our multi-wire or schematic representation. So in the schematic representation, we simply end up having to add some more information over here. So we've added a motor on one of the pages. Let's see how we can add that motor also in the schematic. Now, as you get into the application, and I'm drawing out these over here, for most of our customers or prospect customers transitioning onto the software, one thing that they notice is that this application, as soon as you click, it likes to take bends. Another thing they notice is that these are not just dumb lines. If you right-click onto this, you actually have information related to a wire. So as you can see, it's asking whether I want to add some equipotential properties or any other, or add a cable to this. This particular representation of the wires has intelligence behind it. Now, this is still the basic or the lowest level of drafting possible in SolidWorks Electrical. I'm going to now start and grab some of these objects, and let's do a Control-C, Control-V because it's a Windows-based environment, and the application then places it out for us. As you can see, quality control occurs. There's no name duplication, which is a great thing. So you don't have to worry about certain things not updating or any collisions that might happen in your design process. Now, through my entire design of this particular system, I already laid out some of the components I'm going to look at or have through my entire design. Now, this sort of helps me if I want to push this into purchasing. I can create an entire classification of what components are going to be placed in my project without drawing the system out, and essentially push this report down to purchasing. So keeping that in mind, I have this over here, Q11. I want to connect or let it inherit the properties of Q4. I simply do that, and now the application has inherited Q4's properties. Right-click on the K11. Let's do the same thing. We want it to inherit the properties of K4. As soon as I do that, it inherits the properties of components that are already listed in my project tree, and it makes it really easy for me to be in control of my design. Now, I already added a motor on my single line representation. Let me show you another way of adding motors in your schematic. So I can simply type in motor, and as you can see, it brings up a vast list of symbols. Now, how did it get to this level? If you're curious about it, the reason is the application has a very powerful back end. It has a back end of SQL, so everything you do is run out of that information management system. As we go in here, I'm going to link it down to our component M5, because M5 has all the manufacturing information that I need to assign to my project. So as soon as I link it, the motor's information shows up. Now, by no means necessary do you have to do the single line representation and the schematic. You can either do the single line representation and push it to production, and you will actually get as many reporting details that you would require, whether it's pin connections, cable information, or terminal information, and you can get your design to that level of detail using a simple single line representation. Or if you want to skip the line, move up straight to the schematic, you can just draw out the schematic and the application will hold its ground. When I need to add some more terminals in here, I simply go in and add insert end terminals. Now, inserting end terminals in a sequence is as simple as drawing a line and placing the terminal. Again, quality control occurs. It's down to X6. Now I'm wondering, oh, that's terminal strip X6, terminal number 1. However, just like normal, I would like to make sure that my application is deriving the right information. So I've got terminal X1, that's the strip I want to use, and automatically tells me the next available terminal is 17. Complete this, and we've got 17 to 20. So by default, the application is just keeping track, and as you can see, we can get into terminals, and once I do get into terminals, you'll notice that it's a live from to list. So it keeps track of everything going in and everything going out of my terminal strip. Now, adding manufacturing information is as simple as a right click. Everything in the application essentially can be driven through a simple right click, and it gets you the information you're looking for. So we are looking for a Wago part, and we know that this is our part, so we simply put in that information. Powerful SQL engine brings out the part information and associates it to your drawing. Do the same thing over here, and again, another Wago part, but this time we're adding a ground terminal, a different part, and the application has now recognized our insertion. What do we do when you have a group of wires and you want to convert it down to a cable? Now, I'm still in the drafting stage, so this is still very basic drafting. I haven't pushed the boundaries of automation yet. I'm just showing you feature to feature of what this application really can do for you. Now, grab these conductors, right click on, and if you look at this, you can go in and link it to any of the cables that might be reserved in the project. As soon as you do that, your application now has a cable drawn for you. I'll move this out, and you should be able to see all the cable information automatically populates onto my schematic drawing. Now, I've heard from our customers that they spend a lot of time putting terminal drawings together, and I do pity for them because I have been there and I have done that myself. However, one of the things that SolidWorks Electrical itself makes and takes off your hand and makes life a little bit easier is our first part of the automation, where you simply click on generate drawings and the application goes in and grabs the terminals no matter where they are in the project and lays it out for you on a drawing sheet. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. So there is our terminal strip. It's got terminal 1 to 15 in here. It broke it down and put it onto the other page for us. As you can see, it's got all the cable and conductor information. On the left-hand side, it's got any of the connections going into the terminal. For 15, it's the same thing. It essentially has the information laid out, so you don't have to worry what's going in, and it keeps everything in line for you. So taking it back one step, we've added our motors, we've drawn out a terminal strip, and we've done our single line representation. So we started off with simple drafting. We moved into the first automated drawing set. How do we move up to the next automation level available in SolidWorks Electrical? Within the application, there is something called as a PLC Manager, and in here you can simply go in, add a PLC mark. Let's say we search for Schneider Electric. Let's grab the first one and add this to our project. Adding this to our project gives us the ability and flexibility of setting up this application terminals as we see fit. So in this case, I'm just going to add some inputs and outputs to the application. And as soon as I do that, I now have the ability to go in and assign something called as a macro. Now, the first level of seeing a macro is, if you've used Excel, you know anything that you're going to reuse in your design or any process is defined in SolidWorks Electrical as a macro. So I'm going to grab this as our left input, and I'm going to grab this object and add a macro to my application. So as soon as I do that and I click on generate drawings, the application then takes this PLC information and goes in and places out any of the data that I'm looking for. So let's close this for just 1 second over here and take a look and see what's going on. We've got one more sheet in there, and the beauty of it is that it placed the card out. It added the components. If you want to delete this, by all means you can. It isn't a locked block. The application itself is keeping track of what's going on over here. And one of the things that our customers love a lot about the application is its ability to do cross-referencing. And cross-referencing is a really cool thing. So let's take a look and see. Let's say I go in here and just type in NO for normally open contacts and grab one of these and place it here. We can then get into, let's say we're looking for K13, and we can link K13 manufacturing information. So K13 is our coil. We've added contacts because it's the same manufacturing information, and this is our little cross-reference table that's keeping track of what's going on. So now if I decide to move this object a little bit more up there, it automatically updates the sheet number and row number. If you've got column information, that too will display. So this is a live representation of what's going on, and that is some of the automation available for you in the application. So far we've spoken about normal drafting, adding components, whether it's single line or multi-wire schematic information. I got into doing terminal automation. I showed you a little bit about PLCs. And I introduced you to macros and showed you how macros can be added into PLCs, but now I'm going to take you into how a simple macro is added into a project. So coming back to my schematic over here, I need to step down the voltage in this part of my design. How do I go about creating a macro? I can simply grab a section of a drawing or multiple sheets of a drawing and directly add this to my database. Now, once I add this to my database, the application allows multiple users to access the same information. So multiple people can work in collaboration on this particular project, making it a very seamless process, essentially adding a lot of value and time for working on this application. So I've added this macro to my database, and all I have to do is drag this in, and it is now part of my project. I can either decide to keep everything as is, or I can modify it individually as I bring it in. I'm just going to paste it down directly, right click onto this, and then reassign this so that I am content as to where this is going to go. So I know K6 is the component I want to, sorry, Q6 is the component I'd like to link it to. So select that. And the application is down. Same thing with my transformer. Put it down to T1, and the application will inherit, or the symbols will inherit, the properties of the parts that I've already pushed into purchasing. Now, I can either do just a segment, or I can do multiple sheets. And if I right-click onto any segment in my drawing package, I can insert a project macro. A project macro essentially is multiple sheets that are being added to this particular project. So that's one bulk way of adding project information. But one of the things that I personally like a lot is, it happened in the last 2 months, and let me show you. We have, I have another blank project that I just launched over here. And in SolidWorks Electrical, we now have the ability to do an Excel import. Okay, an Excel import helps you take automation to the next level. So let's take a look at the Excel sheet that's available over here. I have a list of macros laid out, and I can then decide as to what configuration I'm looking to put in. It'll turn on and off those macros that I want inserted into my project. Any other metadata can be added over here, and the application will keep track of it. Now the beauty comes in when you do need to change manufacturing parts of this design, and say you want to take a different configuration, and you select 4 kilowatts and all your components update. As soon as you save it out and close this thing, let's do an Excel automation. Bring the application in, and you'll see over here that sheets are now being added to this particular project. I completed the operation. Let's take a look and see what's going on over here. Now this is an IEC project. Needless to say, the application can perform either within ANSI standards or IEC standards. And as you can see, the drawings are now completed based on the information on the Excel sheet. So I showed you a list of things, and I showed you how automation can be achieved. One of the things that adds value to the application and the way it performs is how we can connect from page to page. We have a little origin and destination manager, and the application allows you to connect only signal to signal. So you can't cross signals. Despite me having my mouse on the green wire, it knows exactly what kind of signal the wire has. Same thing over here. I add that, and as you can see, it's added those connections from page to page. So my off-page references, it maintains quality control as it's going through it. You double click onto this, and it's a live link from one project to the other. Now, stepping away from this for just 1 second, the application also has one feature that pushes it out to the next level, is the wire numbering. Now, how do I go about adding wire numbers? I simply push 2 buttons, and the entire project gets wired for you. So as you can see, the wire number is in here. I double click onto this, and I zoom out. There I have my wire number. How did it come to this wire number? You right click onto it, and go down to wire styles and properties, and you'll see that it is formula driven. So you can go into this and build your own formulas, whether it's row, columns, signal information, terminal information. The application is versatile enough to give you that result that you're looking for. Alright, so same thing with components. If you would like to add more formula-driven component naming, you can do that, and the application will add that for you. So it's a controlled automation. I showed you multiple levels of automation and levels of design you can work with. It's fast, it's easy to use, and it reduces a lot of your rework. I showed you PLCs. You can automate your whole PLC process. Panel layouts, it's available both in 2D and 3D. One of the things that we like to push in for is either use 2D or 3D, but 3D, however, seems to capture everyone's hearts over, only because it gives you much more than the standard 2D package in terms of collaboration. So flip over for just 1 second, and we're going to take a look and see how a 2D schematic is done. Right-click into this, and if you can simply start inserting your components, you can do bulk insertion, and the application will allow you to place these components. You can decide for spacing if you want to account for heat dissipation, and that is that. If you want to add in some dimension information, the application takes care of that too. And last but not least is, if you do want to do anything in 3D, it is very possible to do so. You simply have to launch up the application on the 3D side of things, and because it's a collaborative environment in SQL engine, the application will keep track of all the components that are being placed within your project. Now, my project is almost complete over here, so I'm just going to add a couple of more components to make my life a little smoother. I'm going to select K1 to K6. I already inserted these in 2D, and as soon as you place it on the rail, the application then tells you if you want to have this any spacing. Your application allows you to do that. If you would like to make sure that your duct and rails are, if you want to know what kind of spacing between or the fill ratio in your ducts, the application allows you to keep track of that too. So I'm going to insert terminal X1 over here and add that to my project. So as we come to the end of this, the last thing that is fairly important is reporting. I'm going to go down to my project, click on reports, and right off the bat, if you look at this, Motor M5 already exists in my project because I did it right in front of you from start to end. I can either export it to Excel, text, or XML, and I'm just going to push this out to drawings. I am almost at the end of my presentation, so if you have any questions, please put them in, and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Well, moving on to the 3D side of things, I can simply grab these objects and route the wires. Everything that's run in SolidWorks Electrical is run based on the collaboration environment, and your heart of it is the library information. One of the things that I like to usually bring to everyone's attention is there's an online portal that's free to all the SolidWorks customers. There's 16 million parts, and they're still adding almost continuously. So you can find just about anything you're looking for. So as the application is almost coming to an end in its routing, I'm just going to close this, and let's take a look and see what's happening over here. We've got our reports. Everything has been placed out, and everything is segregated as required. Your list of wires should have the length information. This came out of the 3D package. So if you go into 3D, you should see all the wires routed out, and that's what our application looks like. Coming back onto the last and the most important thing, which ties in the entire application, is our export to PDF. So exporting something into PDF sort of packages everything. You can either export it to DWG or publish it to eDrawings, but the application tends to have, well, we love to see PDFs and show it off because it is one of our best features. So while it takes a moment to get ready over there, we've got our automation of reports. We've got documentations. You can either export them to, like I said, Excel text or XML. PDF just happens to be the heart and soul of our exports. Let's take a look and see. Everything is neatly exported. These are live links, so you can pretty much click between projects and the application will take you back. So if you go on to bill of materials, and not just that, one of the things that definitely strikes out is our off-page references that show in over here to our project. So it is a complete solution. It covers everything from your 2D to 3D and your documentation and the way everything is managed. It has a central information SQL database management tool. I have hit the end of my demonstration. Thank you for joining me and have yourselves a very great afternoon. I will answer some of the questions now that are in the queue.